going on, guys? Happy Wednesday. Today I'm on with Dmitry from Treasure Curls. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. This is my greeting. If anybody's new, this is a polyp and this is a stony
That's what we're going
coral.
for there.
So, yes.
Okay. That was like the princess wave at first. You're like, doo, 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 doo. Yes, my people. The polyp wave. I like it. So we are both definitely addicted to the Acropora and SPS, and we figure it'd be a fun one to dig into kind of tips of success with Acropora today. So how you doing? How's the tanks? How's the acros?
They are excellent. And I think last time you and I talked, the weather was still very nice, but now it's no longer the case. And that means that we're getting to spend a lot more time in our houses. In my case, it's basement, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And I think everybody in my reefing community, all of my friends, they just cannot get enough. Like the stores are busier, and like I definitely started selling a lot more corals online as well. It's just picking up, and people are starting to get excited about Acropora again, I think.
Yep. There's definitely seasonality to the hobby, and reefing season's definitely starting back up again. Like that is for sure. So most people, I guess, acros. Let's start as like kind of the basic tips. For someone new to acros, what are kind of the pro tips or main thing for them to start paying attention to? Like usually when people want to get into acros, I'll just give them some easier ones to kind of test the waters and get their feet wet with them. Ones that I know are going to be relatively hardy, but
Yeah. Well, I would even before this say that I get to interact with a lot of folks, and the number of times every week I hear somebody, when I mention the word acro, they go, "Oh no, I'm not ready for an acro. I want a torch, or or a hammer, or whatnot." And like they don't even look in terms of like what an acro is and keeping it, because they just hear that they're super complicated. And yet, every experienced reefer I talk to, and if I bring this up, they all go, "Oh, if anything, I think torches are harder than like most of the acros out there."
yeah, that's fair actually. They're
I Yeah,
they're definitely more finicky than most acros.
exactly. Like, I mean, you can get the bacterial disease on them. If you look at it funny, like the flow it has to be just right, not too strong, not too light. And for acros, for like green slimer, I think as long as it's not freshwater, it will probably survive. And most like torts and staghorns, things that, or montes, which is again not quite an acro, but actually yeah, it's Acropora montipora.
Yep.
So those things will survive in anything, and yet people think stony coral hard LPS is easy.
It's true.
And like gonies, for example, are a lot harder to keep, especially if you buy it from like from an importer when it's a wild colony. You probably 50% chance is going to die in your tank.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I did actually import a bunch of wild ones. I think there was one or two that didn't do well, and the rest did reasonably well. So it's good.
You probably use a very good importer, like a good connection.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's true though. Like once you, especially in an aged tank, I find acros are actually pretty darn easy. Once your tank is happy and stable, you just throw it in, and it's might take a while to settle in, but eventually it starts growing. So
that's actually a very good point, just on the maturity aspect of it, because when I started my farm for the first year, no matter what I did, I just could not get things stabilized properly. And I remember Battle Corals, who you did have on your podcast, Adam. He was kind of talking about exactly the same thing, which is the first year when you are doing that, it's hit and miss. And yet I've set up systems before where like a temporary tank, or maybe a quarantine tank, where I would put sticks in there, no nitrogen cycle, nothing, and they would be just fine, not lose color, and be totally okay.
yeah, I mean, in the past, I've literally had sticks living in a 5-gallon bucket, the power head and a light. So I mean, they can be relatively easy. Now, there's obviously the more expensive ones tend to be more finickier, and those can be the ones that are a little more flaky, the swings. So
Yes.
usually, the more expensive it is, the slower it grows, and the more flaky it is. So cheaper it is, probably the more hardy it is. Just like a good general assumption.
Right. And I guess coming back to your question, uh, I think the hobby has moved to also a mature point now where 10 years ago it was still, people would go back and forth in terms of nutrients and parameters and magic numbers for that, or for lighting, or for the flow. But now it sounds like mostly 80% is converged on, those gold numbers for alkalinity, say, between 8 and 9, calcium 450, or give or take, magnesium of 1350, and then everybody quotes zero point 0.1 for phosphates, and like a 10 nitrate, which is the 1 to 100 ratio as well.
I have personally not found that it makes that big of a difference for most acros.
The phosphate nitrate, or the ratio, or what?
The levels, like I've had mine like excessively high, and the acros are all fine. They still look good. Maybe you get slightly better color at lower ones, but I think they can adapt and be happy at either end of the spectrum, personally.
Are you referring to the nutrients, or
Nutrients,
even
yeah.
the
Nitrate and
okay,
phosphate.
not the alkalinity, magnesium, calcium?
No, we'll go back to that one. Yeah, sorry, you're just talking
Yeah,
about the
okay.
ratio of nitrates, phosphates. Yeah, so I've, had tanks super low, and I've had tanks that have been
Yeah.
super high, and I've happily kept acros in either.
So a couple of things to this. My 2 tanks, actually, if you bring up a website, your viewers can actually see that, what those 2 tanks are. And I promise I did not even, I didn't prepare for this. So you will actually see what my real parameters are. So if you go to aquatic log, and I think if you just search for dtum is my username, or let's just see, explore.
Give me 1
I
second.
don't know if you can. I'll share the photo as well if needed.
Yeah, I can pull it.
But it should be
What am I searching for?
there.
DTOM?
Yeah. If there is a, so you know what? Go to explore.
Yep.
And then if you scroll down to see a photo by DTum, just search for DTum. Let me. You know what? I'll send you a little link.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. So if you click on my username, I think it should be clickable. And now you will see my tanks. I think I cannot see your screen. I think it's behind me on the video.
It is. It's just blank though when I click on the name.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. I was gonna show the. Okay. Let's see if does this work. Hold on a second. Where can I send you a chat on Signal? Will work?
Yep, Signal works.
Okay. So try this. I just sent it to you.
Okay, perfect. Let me load that one up.
But as I was saying, I have 2 aquariums. I have a farm and I have a display tank. And on the phosphates, yeah, that's perfect. So if you see the measurements, this one is my farm.
Okay, nice.
And you'll see my alkalinity, my calcium, magnesium, nitrate or pH, and the phosphate, and everything is, as close to kind of the gold standard as possible.
Nice.
But I'm gonna send you a second link right now, which is my display tank, and couldn't be anything further from that, which is pH probe is not working.
Okay.
I need to figure out that's why it's low. But look at the phosphate, 0.54.
Yep.
That's a true phosphate, and yet 0 issues in the tank. It's thriving. Corals look great, and everything is just looking phenomenal.
Yeah, so that's a good spread. 0.08 to 0.54. Exactly.
Yes.
Right. So they can be happy thriving at either end of the spectrum.
And when I was, 2 podcasts ago, we talked about polyp extension. I remember reaching out to probably like 10 top reefers that I had contacts with on like SPS, and I asked them, what your parameters are, especially when phosphate and nitrate, and it was all over the map. There's folks that have like fairly low, or it can be, oh, you'd be surprised, I'm like 1 in phosphate, and look at my hairy polyps and everything else. What nobody had was 0 though.
Yeah.
10 years ago, if you ask somebody like for acro tank what your parameters are, people would say 0 and 0, they're undetectable, it's acros. But I don't think you hear that in the last 6 or 10 years anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. So, what do you think on the logic of throwing in a ton of corals in a brand new tank to add coral diversity versus letting it age a while before you get into the acros?
Good question. I think that it's a great idea to go into a tank that even doesn't have anything, and put corals in, but very hardy corals. So I
Hmm.
would, and I would go for bigger pieces of the like Hollywood standard chalice, which people just throw out, or the those Monty plates, which
Hmm.
again people just throw them out right now because you can't really frag them and sell them. There's not a lot of market for that. But for somebody with a new tank, just put it in there because it's a ton of surface where there's bacteria,
Yep.
but also they will consume stuff out of the water. They will kind of clean it or whatnot, maintain it, good bacteria. And then over time, if things do well, then you start, okay, maybe put in like a little bit next tier coral
Hmm.
and see how well they do. And if they do well, then you start replacing easier corals with something that you may like a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's fair. You do definitely want hardy stuff, but I do think there's a lot of merit to adding a bunch of corals at once just to add diversity to your tank.
Hmm.
I know lots of people go slow and start, but I found that does kind of a decent way of importing some of the goodness.
Well, what happens a lot of times, I've seen this where people go. So imagine you have a big tank and you have all that light that you need. So you're cooking it with let's say 250 par, 300 par, nothing crazy, but also not small.
Hmm.
So if you have just a few tiny frags, the rest of the surface is just basically harboring algae,
Yep.
and that's where things just start getting haywire. However, if you do what you're suggesting, you've basically all that surface is occupied by something else.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's actually a really good way of looking at it as well. So
So
aside from that,
yeah.
okay, so we talked
Yeah.
about starting with acros, getting into it. A lot of people they come down to how do I get better color out of my acros, or how do I get better polyp extension?
Okay.
Yep. What do you think are the key factors in that one?
You know what? I have a list, and I'm actually working on an article that I hope to publish on my site, of what worked for me.
Hmm.
And there is, you start with the basics, which is, I think the parameters have to be at least within that range that we talked about,
Yep.
including temperature, which is a big one, and salinity. And the fact that nobody really knows the salinity of their aquarium, that's a whole other conversation. But what do you trust for salinity? Because as far as, okay, let me ask you this. Yeah, so digital refractometer is, after extensive reviews and experiments, the only two things that work is that either Milwaukee or Hanna digital optical refractometer.
Hmm.
Not going to be confused with that stupid thing
Yeah,
with
I have
with
two
the
of those,
prones.
but I never use them anymore.
I have two of them as well, and I don't use them. Um, or another gold standard is
The Bobber Tropic Marin.
the Tropic Marine one. Like I love this one. It's
Yep.
such a pain to use though.
But
You
it's
have to
always
have a tall
calibrated and accurate.
tank, but it is a gold standard.
And if salinity is off, everything is off. Because salinity is like the baseline of all your other parameters. And, that's something that
100%.
not a lot of people test all the time. And it
Yeah.
can drift over time. And if you don't pay attention to it or you don't do frequent water changes with the proper salinity, again, eventually it can bite you.
Yeah. A little segue before I'm gonna continue down, this trope. One thing I'm experimenting lately, because I'm mostly still use like Ecotech the equipment, and I like that ecosystem. One pain point though is with the Mobius app is the time it takes to open it up and load it up, and that is just driving me bonkers because you have the list and then you have to click on your tank and then you wait sometimes 10 seconds, maybe more. Sometimes one of the pumps is disconnected, whatever, and before you can actually, let's say, turn off the water flow. And so what I'm kind of now doing is because I'm using a Vectra power pump or the Vortec power head, I'm going to start using the feed mode to basically, instead of slowing things down, which is I think the default, is to turn everything off.
Yeah.
That is kind of what I'm going for. However, even with this thing, there's an issue that for whatever reason, you can go 0 on a power head, but you cannot do the same for for the pump. The pump in the feed mode, you can only go to 1%, which is kind of silly.
Does 0 actually spin?
Well, it doesn't let you get to 0.
Okay.
Like the app, so the slider goes to 1, and if you can also override it by putting in the number, but if you put a 0 in there, it goes red. And I think before it used to be you couldn't do that for the Vortec, and that kind of made sense because I think they were saying, the fish may go in and then it startles it and it cuts the fish in half or something like that. I don't know. But for the power head, like, what is the reason why I can't program it to go 0? I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe next week I'm going to reach out to Yucatec and just ask that question.
Let me know. Now I'm curious. Now I got to try it on mine too.
And I still haven't lost the original thread, but the follow-up is I noticed you were playing with that display, which I'm very curious about. Is it only for... Yeah.
Here, let me replug it in. My USB-C at the back of my desk won't reach.
So is that display only, meaning it works if I'm walking past the tank and then I look at one of the parameters in red and I'm doing something, or can you actually press a button to do something?
You can kick off feed modes, and they're looking at adding some like toggles you can do to switch stuff on and off.
Okay, I love that because I'm a big, like, I love the physical interfaces. One thing I haven't not hooked up, but at some point maybe I'll reach out to Adaptive Reef, is I like all those. Yeah, this is awesome. So show me. So the button. What is the button to the left? The lower
there's a
left
little
corner?
play button, and currently you can kick off like feed modes.
Okay, but so it's 2 clicks though. That's...
Yes, 1 click, 2 click.
Yeah. Okay. That's no bueno. I want 1 click. I'm half joking, but really I want 1 click.
If you leave it on that screen, it's 1 click, but then you don't see your
Well,
parameters.
that defeats the most important purpose. What's the down arrow?
There's other screens.
Oh, okay. So you can actually see a little bit more.
Different parameters.
Okay. Oh, nice. Nice. Well, it's nice of them that they've done it. I think this is really cool. Nice.
Yeah, you gotta cycle through different things. Yeah, eventually I want a couple of these because they are super cool.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm a big believer in I have the YouTube subscriber hardware thing. Like those are just a lot of fun. Those dashboards.
My elk is low. Good thing I looked.
There you go.
As I've added a bunch more coral to this tank, apparently it's been sucking a lot more, so I gotta have my dosing. Thanks for the reminder.
How's the AquaWiz been working so far?
AquaWiz, so far so good. Yeah, no complaints.
Good to hear. All right, I'm actually doing a Black Friday sale this week on the site, so one time only.
Nice.
Treasurecorals.com.
Perfect. What's the deal? What's the price?
It's gonna be 15% off. Nice. So pretty
good.
The
second one of these days. Is it loud?
Yeah,
no, it's pretty quiet.
We'll talk. But the best one, I've never tried it, but I wanted to use those buttons, the physical buttons, like in the flight simulators where you can just kind of go and do that. Those are awesome.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I know you want something for feed mode, and I've had this thought for a while. One, I told Terrence to make a button so I could do feed mode on all my tanks once on this. But I
Yeah.
also have something called Home Assistant, which has my tanks linked to it.
Yeah.
This is totally off topic, but I'll quickly show you.
Is it what interface is it using for that?
I have like my own little dashboard I made, but it pulls in like tank stats. Like I have it reading probes and stuff like that, and I could turn stuff on and off. Like I can control an Apex outlet from here.
Oh, I
So
see. Because so how did you integrate it with Apex then?
yeah, someone made like a little plugin hack thing to do it. So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
But there is
I love it.
okay. So I don't know if you can see. Do you see the little light on my palm tree over there?
I think my screen is covering that. Doesn't
You
it?
are, but
Yeah.
okay. See the
Oh,
lights
okay.
off.
Yeah. I see that. Yeah. Okay.
So that is plugged into my Apex power bar, and I'm controlling it with a button on my Stream Deck that's talking to Home Assistant that's telling Apex to turn on and off.
Nice.
So I
have
plan,
Elgato buttons, and I
yeah.
can do this. Oh, which
So
I forgot to do right now.
I have a
Look at that.
little, like a single like Z-Wave or Zigbee button, and I
Okay.
plan on making a single button I can push that puts all of my tanks in a feed mode at the same time. So I just hit one physical button, and my tanks all go to feed mode. I might even do two of them, put one at each tank. I just walk up, hit feed mode on either one, and they all go to feed mode. So that's on my to-do list.
Right.
Yes.
The only issue is you will need to have Vortex connected through MXM, correct?
Well, you could just turn off the outlet to your pump, or you could have it through.
Yeah, but I want a few things kind of kicking at the same time.
If you want to control them, then yes, you would need an Apex with an MXM module, but it's doable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
But yeah, so that's my convoluted plan that I can actually do with a physical button wirelessly to make all my tanks go into feed mode. So that's on my
I want it.
near future
And
to-do list.
is it a nice button? This Zigbee button?
Let me see if I can reach
Come
one.
on.
My office
Yeah.
is so full of stuff from like renovating and
That's all right.
dismantling my house.
I'm gonna start just singing
Talk
some
about Acros. Give me 1
music.
sec.
Yeah, no worries. So while Devin is away, let's. I'm gonna ask the. Oh, I wanted to ask some questions of
Ask
your
away.
audience.
I'm just gonna open one to show you.
All right. While he's busy, what is everybody up to? I don't know.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. All
Okay.
right.
Acropora. There you go. Here's the little buttons that I was gonna use.
Oh, okay.
So you could program like one push does an action, a long push, a double push. So you could be like, one tap is for one tank, double tap for two tanks, or long hold for all the tanks. Like you do cool stuff like that.
You know what? Topic for another session because I don't want to really detour too much, but we gotta do the tank automation, and I'll come prepared. I'll try to come up with a few ideas as well because this is pretty cool. I like it.
Nerd just unplug from the wall. Never. That's too much work. And you have to remember to plug it back in. This is the key.
Yes.
You need automation to put stuff back for you so it doesn't realize that you won't forget about it.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yep.
All right. Let's unwind all of that. Come back to the
SPS
Acropora
secrets.
and pods.
Acropora success.
Yes, after all. So we covered the parameters. Then the next ones are, again, when it comes to flow and for lighting.
What's more important, flow or lighting?
Well, every experienced reefer will tell you right now it's a flow. This is what after I've read too many articles of other people asked or different podcasts. Everybody has that question, and like all the acros stickheads basically say, "Oh, flow." I don't know, probably because without one you can't really have the other. But I don't know. What do you think?
I've decided most of us don't have enough flow, and if you have higher flow, your corals can handle higher light, which makes it more forgiving. Yes. So I think more flow the merrier, as long as you're not like, blasting the flesh off your corals and like excessive. But I think lots of strong broad flow has a lot of merit to it.
Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about flow because I watched a good episode. I think Yorkshire Reefer was in UK. He talked to the guy White Coral, I think, or
that's Nias is basically runs white corals.
sorry, what's his name?
Nias, the brand.
Oh
White
no,
Corals
sorry,
is
then
like
it
their
wasn't.
coral
No,
facility
no, sorry,
thing.
it was Signature Frags.
Okay.
Really nice fella. He started out by trying to build a really good collection in UK because he was kind of inspired by some of the stuff that we were doing here in. Well, neither of us are in US, but like our friends in US,
Yeah.
or we're doing kind of setting the gold standard. We're also jealous because we kind of get a lot of pieces here that they have over there, but UK was kind of doing the same thing. And he, for 10 years or whatever, he built like an amazing collection and doing all of that. But he is all acro, which is in tune of the topic of today. And he was talking about the flow. So in one of the tanks, he had two gyres. So basically, think it's a 3 foot by 6 foot tank.
Yeah.
And you've got a wall of gyres on one side and wall of gyres on the other side, but they're not offset. They actually across each other, and it kind of goes. One is stronger, the other one is a little bit less. Then it changes, and sometimes they kind of meet in the middle. So, but you have that kind of changing flow that does all of the goodies in there. And I found that those were pretty good. But he was also saying that when you go to the ocean, which again, people in UK are able to go to the beach, he said he would sometimes just go into the water and stand there and just get a feel for that flow. And that flow cannot be simulated in the tank because it's just such a big mass of
It
water
knock you over if you have
that
enough
comes
flow,
in.
right? Like a wave coming in,
Yeah.
you're deep enough. Like, yeah.
So, but again, let's just kind of dig a little bit deeper on that one. I spent hours looking at the corals, like a typical acro with little polyps kind of sticking out. So what happens if they're getting blasted? They just kind of go one way and kind of like this. So there's different schools of thought here, because some people are saying, let's just kind of crank up the flow as much as you can. But some people say that they're not resting this way because sometimes you want to give them a break to come back and do a little bit of that and then do this again, which when people have the sea swirls, that is where you can achieve that because you hit the coral. It goes like this for like 3 seconds, 10 seconds. But then as the sea swirl starts moving away, the coral relaxes and kind of, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. What do you think?
No, I think it's good. Like Tunzi's coming out their new one with the power heads that moves around, which is super cool.
Yes.
And you could
Yeah.
adjust the flow higher or lower at specific angles. So I think it's super cool. So if it's really
It
close to
is.
corals, you turn it down. If it's further away, you can crank it up.
That's smart. That's so smart.
Now, if you have a static head, like more and more, like I'm starting to go back to just pulsing the power head. So you rock the whole water column, because then you're getting a lot more like back to forth movement to everything versus just the power head direct flow. So I kind of go more back to that the last little while.
I'm gonna push back a little bit on that one, just because
away.
while first of all, it's probably the most satisfying look in the tank, 100%, and you feel great. But I wonder if you just like put a piece of food or something like in there, you'll notice that it just kind of, the amplitude is actually fairly small from that perspective, because that the water around a coral, let's say this is a coral, it doesn't move that far, because the moment it's going to go this way, it's actually going to go back. So that set of water is never leaving the area of the coral.
It depends on your pulse length, but yes.
Okay, well, tell me more on that. What do you mean by that?
Well, okay. So I don't know if I do this constantly, but Friday's like the spice of life, right? The coral. So it's good to mix it up. I've historically always just left my pumps on Reef Crest. Last little while I was paying with more like some on Reef Crest and some pulsing, so it's moving everything, but you're still getting that. So a mix I think is obviously good, but I think the power of moving the full water column gives you a lot more movement through all the polyps and corals versus, the jet stream of water in a sense.
Yes. And it's definitely more forgiving. By the way, with Reef Crest, one pet peeve I have is that you cannot set the lower parameter of that Reef Crest. You can do that for for aqua elimination products,
Can't you?
They have their own version of that, but you can specify the top and lower band. So if I want, for example, an acro tank, I can go give me 40% as the lowest and
Mhm.
give me 100 as the highest. I never want to see things go lower than, let's say, 40 or 50. So I want stronger and a little bit and medium, strong and medium. You
Mhm.
cannot do that with Reef Crest. Reef Crest kind of goes, and same with Lagoon mode. You can go either like 100. Let's say if I set the whole thing at 100%, I can get to 100, but it will go down to close to zero for a little bit,
Mm.
or like 10 or 20, and then it ramps up. So
Okay,
that
fair.
range is very, very high. And
Yeah.
I personally think that that's the reason why people give up on that.
Interesting. I've
Yeah.
just used it for ages, but again, I think alter historically I've just left it on Reef Crest, but now I think I'm gonna like alternate a bit more to have some pulse periods, some Reef Crest, and mix it up. Even though I historically just left it on like 80% Reef Crest 24/7.
So let's just stay there for a second. You've had a lot of guests on your podcast, especially, but out of people that really good at Acropora keeping,
Mm-hmm.
do you what do they talk about the flow? Like, what's the common thing that you find that they all say?
More
Or
flow, more
maybe it's
better.
a good, yeah,
I haven't dug as much into the different modes and what they use though, but I'm gonna start digging into that more. But
yeah. That's
most of them all agree that most of us don't have enough flow. I mean, you
what
can.
about like a wave? Not the wave, but like the pulse mode,
Mm,
but more less about the standing wave and more about I'm gonna run for 2 seconds. I'm gonna be off by 2 seconds. I'll run for 2 seconds, off for 2 seconds. What do you think of that one?
well, I think there's good merit to that, and also I think that too when you're talking about like standing in the ocean has
Hmm.
hours of one way, then it can have hours of a flow the other way, which
Hmm.
we don't do that. But am kind of curious to play with that a little bit more. Where
Yeah.
maybe you crank one side up to like 80% and the other side down to 20%, and then you alternate that later in the day to like change the different flow patterns in the tank. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. My tank's obviously not really there at the moment, but I'm gonna redo it and start playing with a lot more in the new setup.
Yes, and I'm very sorry to hear of your mishap.
Was
Uh,
not a fun week, but
No, it's unfortunate, and I've experienced that as well before, and
mm,
I think that's what separates reefers from non-reefers is if you can, as Rocky Balboa said, you can still stand up
yeah.
after you've been knocked down.
Well, that's the first time I've ever had it in 10+ years, so I guess happens eventually, which
Yeah,
sucks. But
well,
I'm excited for a new build. Silver lining. Sucks
that's
to
true.
start over, but at the same time, the build's half the fun. So,
Okay.
yep.
All right, so that's the flow,
Hmm.
and I don't know. Do your users say anything? Sorry, the viewers. Do they? Is anybody in the comments have an opinion on flow?
Yeah, let me guys know if you have any big strong preference on one way or the other.
I'll tell you what. Eventually, I ended up on personally.
Hmm.
And I was actually inspired by Leonardo Reef, amazing guy, an amazing studio, and like just really really cool. But uh, what I did was I created a standing wave
Hmm.
in my farm, so there's a lot of that going on, and then every 30 seconds my gyre, so aqua illumination orbit, just kicks in and blows for say 30 seconds
Hmm.
just to move that water column towards the overflow,
Yep.
and then it shuts off for 30 seconds.
Okay.
And that seems to kind of really really make a difference.
Nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
added a gyro at the top of mine at one point just because when the acros are so thick, I had to get more flow over top of it, and I definitely feel like it did benefit.
Yeah, the only problem there is you got to clean them, and it's
They're a pain to
such a
clean.
pain.
They're way better than the
It is.
original. The original gyros were like a nightmare to clean. The
I
newer
know.
ones
I've
aren't
I've
bad.
had them. Like you could just throw them out, kind of thing.
Yep.
It was pretty bad.
Acroatic
All right,
J.
so that's the flow.
I think the
Yeah.
most important thing is polyp agitation from the flow, but not constantly aggressive moving polyps. You know,
Well, but okay, but what does that really mean? What is the agitation?
I th-
If the coral moved like this,
yep.
is that agitation? But if you crank up the flow by another, let's say 50%, and it's still there, are you
S-
doing anything better?
6 or 7 years ago, I remember a local
Six,
guy.
seven, 6, 7.
No, 6 or 7 years ago, there was a local guy at him, and I remember his tank. He had a peninsula style, but I don't think he like pulsed, or I think his pumps were just on. And I remember half his corals, some of them were going away from the floor, and some were going into the coral. But they all had like specific slant to them, which always made me laugh.
Sure.
So
But were they healthy and were the polyps out?
they looked good, but the growth patterns are funky because of just the stagnant flow.
Yeah.
So I find the more varied flow definitely contributes itself to more of a natural growth pattern versus not
Yes, they do.
just a weird angle.
And
That's one of
another thing that it does is, some same coral will
Mhm.
be dense in one tank and wispy in another,
Yeah, true. So
which is really cool.
how much do you think flow contributes to pulp extension?
I think it definitely does something there. And again, I have, you know what, I had one time, because I have many tanks, they're all kind of they're interconnected, so I can experiment, and I
Mhm.
really like that part of it. I remember like a simple coral such as a Mountain Dew, which, nice, but and sometimes the polyps are out. But I had it under very strong flow, which was random, like picture perfect, and the polyps weren't really out. And then I moved it temporarily to my second tank, which is more like LPS torches with a lot lesser flow. And I remember looking at it like maybe 2 hours later, and it had like the most amazing polyp extension ever.
Mhm.
But in that tank, the flow was slow and, or not slow, but it was like on for 2 seconds, off by 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And it almost as if it kind of gave it a little bit before it was maybe too agitated
Mhm.
and not in a good way. And then this gave him a little bit of a break and it really came out. However, when I tried to then, I was like, okay, I've discovered something. Let me try this in the other tank. I could never really reproduce it, and then at some point, even in that tank, it changed.
Yeah. One of the latest pumps I was playing with was the big beastie Tunzi, the 6255.
Mm,
That thing moves a lot of water. So I think in the new setup, I'll probably keep the MP60s, probably Reef Crest ish, and then use that one either above or below it to push to, more to the 6 foot end and pulse it a bit and get more of the wave from that one. I think I do a mix of the two,
that's amazing.
which is
I'd
going to
love
be
to see that.
ridiculous for flow, but it's going to be great. Great in the long
What
run.
are you gonna have in the new tank? Like, is it gonna like mixed reef again?
Probably. I always get sucked into mixed reef.
Yeah,
I
for
don't know.
sure.
I'm going to be a lot pickier with what I put into it this time.
That's
But
what. It's a good reset right there.
yep, I know. I had certain invasive things in there that annoyed me, and I guess they're ridded now.
Yes.
um, yep.
And just with the polyps, I guess the next one is lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Again, important, but I think people now have come to more or less again the same conversions in terms of the happy medium. Par between 250 to 350, give or take, and
So okay, so outside of the norm, if you're 300 par versus 7 or 800 par,
yeah.
do you find a big difference in your acros?
I think it depends, first of all, on which acro,
Mm-hmm.
but I would compare it to like driving a Ferrari almost. You gotta, the margins of error are a lot thinner and you can get into trouble a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
So you will likely get crazier colors,
Mm-hmm.
but also you're dealing with different blooms of different algae and whatever it is,
Yeah.
things just going at a completely different scale and speed in the tank then. And unless your tank is like really dialed in and
Mm-hmm.
everything is perfect, then it's the same analogy that you gave, where stronger light, stronger flow, you can get away with stronger light and everything else. You got to have everything, I think, as close to perfect, and then you can crank it up, and I think it will reward you.
Tell me if you agree with
But
this. I also found that having higher nutrients lets you get away with more flow and more light.
Yes, I would agree with that as
Where
well.
lower nutrients, I feel like it's more riskier to get too crazy high. Where if you have higher nutrients, it
Yes.
kind of balances out, cranking up to crazy higher par.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. I
Okay.
would agree.
Yeah, that's just something that I
Um,
kind of like noticed over time. I had super high nutrients, and I'm like, oh, this torch is under like 700-800 par, and it's happy as could be, and certain
totally
things just
fine.
yeah,
Torches can handle a lot of light,
yeah,
and they will reward you for sure there. But also torches like water that definitely is not barren.
yep, very true. But yeah, there's just certain ones that I found that they're just perfectly fine and happy with super high par as long as the nutrients are higher. If they're lower, that just seem to be a little harder on them.
Yep.
Yep.
And with the flow, sorry,
Mhm.
so lighting, also duration, I think is
Yep.
important, and also the spectrum. You've got to have, say, 6 hours. People now kind of suggest maybe 4 to 6 hours of white and followed by 4 to 6 hours of blue light.
Hmm.
So full spectrum, and then kind of kick it with blue. I think for Acropora, that serves a purpose. I can't really yet confirm that, but it kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay. Question for you: does he feel
Yes.
he's missing anything in spectrum of his display tank with only blades versus his frag tank with blades/XR combos? Are the colors different at all with the acros?
That's a very good question. Because I had, not with my big tank, but the tank before, I had a water box 4 footer,
Hmm.
and I had it hooked up into the same water column as my farm. I ran tubes and all of that stuff, and that one, it was only blades. And it's, when it comes to blades, I really prefer grow after overglow, because I like that white channel, but more importantly, I love the blue channel personally.
Yeah.
Like, blue is my favorite channel. I tolerate the royal blue because corals, I seem to like it, but aesthetically, I don't want my tank to look anything other than blue. I don't want any purple in my tank when I look at it. But that's just, again, how I look at it. But I thought a lot about the deficiency. Like, are we sure that something will not change in terms of the color? And in my new tank, I could probably go with any light, and I went with only blades because I love that form factor.
Hmm. Does look sleek.
um yeah, I did not notice any lackluster color. If anything, some of the corals that get really close and they get really bombarded with par, like really colored up. Where if I frag it and I put it into the farm, I'm sometimes amazed because the same coral is not showing up
Hmm.
like this. So to answer the question, I don't think there's anything lacking, although it's not intuitive because we want to have that little. Everybody leaves like a 10% red channel because they think that it's gonna do something, or a blue, or sorry, or green, or yellow, whatever it is. But um, I think that there's also the second layer to this is when you light the tank and the color is reflected, that will change your perception of what you see.
Yep. Like the green does make your tank look better. It's also going to make the green corals reflect more, and the red's going to make the red corals reflect more. So
Yes.
definitely comes into your visual representation of what you see. So I use them
Yes.
partially for that. How much they help the corals, I don't know, but make stuff look good.
That's I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah. So what you see is what's reflected back at you. So I mean, I personally like the fuller spectrum because you're seeing more colors, and you have the ability to make certain colors pop a little bit more.
Yeah. But also, like, with time, I find that I know how to find that little balance, just even visually, to bring out the best
Hmm.
possible color. Like, where there's a little bit of white, stronger, let's say blue. Royal blue is going to be, let's say, 70% of that. And for me, when I look at it, it's there. But I think you will, the more channels you have, probably the more stuff will be thrown back at you, and you will notice that.
Yeah, no, agreed. Okay, Acrobatic J. I'm interested to hear both of your experience with different trace elements and the effect on acro coloration. And how often do you ICP?
Okay, I'm gonna have a quite controversial view on this,
Bring it
but
on.
um, why don't you go first?
Trace elements absolutely affect coral. Overdosing certain ones can make certain colors more prominent and reduce colors. A good blend, I think, definitely does make colors pop. I think elevated potassium definitely has some merits of adding some extra like vibrance to your coral. Back in the day when I was like hardcore into the reef moonshiners and I was doing all those all the daily editions and stuff, like the tank
Yeah.
looked phenomenal. The colors were great when I was definitely on it. Now it's more lazy reefer mode where I just dose like trace supplements or broad spectrum and I'll periodically ICP and tweak stuff. But
Okay.
when I was hardcore dosing it like every day, I definitely did see a bit better coloration. Was it night and day? No. Was it, subtly noticeable? Yes.
Interesting.
What do you got?
Uh, I'm gonna go orthogonal. Like if anything, I changed my mind on this one, but I was never a big fan of traces because every single time I would try to do that, and I've tried it for 15 years, different magic potions. Sometimes you feel like first of all, it makes you feel really good because you think you know what you're doing and you're doing it by the book, and we all want some guidance from that perspective. Also, to your point exactly, I know several reefers that swear by traces and their tanks are incredible. However, uh, I did not. I find that sometimes when I would try to do this, my tank would actually look worse.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried, I did like a very extensive ICP test, and then it was low on, I think, selenium, and so everything else was in line, but selenium wasn't. And I started dosing selenium, and then for whatever reason, 2 weeks later or a month later, things just started to go a lot darker and like not appealing. And I stopped, and then it all bounced back
Mm-hmm.
after some time. Correlation, maybe, maybe not. I don't really know, but for me, I'm really inspired by somebody like Jason Fox. I
Mm-hmm.
really like his methodology and an approach. And lately, like for the past 2 years, I've been only doing like large water changes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using Kalkwasser and two part, and two part is fauna, which
Yep.
does have, when you prepare it, you have to put a little bit of traces in there. But I'm also thinking that every time you feed the fish, you're actually introducing a whole bunch of different trace elements. And if you do a variety of foods and whatnot, I think you're gonna hit off a lot of those boxes. So and finally, because I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. I don't have time to do these 3 bottles of this and that or 24 channels of every single element. Although it does appeal me, I don't want to be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I find that I can actually get away with a lot more because I just keep it as simple as possible. My colors are incredible. Like I can tell you sometimes when I look at it, I'm just kind of going, wow.
So,
Um,
so you're
yeah,
doing regular dosing and basically just relying on regular large water changes for more of your
yes,
trace. Okay. What do
that
you
is that is correct.
what do
And
you do?
feeding, fish feeding.
Yeah, fish feeding for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
fish poop is tons of good stuff for feeding your
yeah.
corals. What do you what's your main dosing? What do you dose for products?
So not even lately. I'm thinking like last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've really stabilized my approach. And by the way, I do document this on my YouTube channel as well. So every week I do that. And some of your viewers, I'm sure, are my viewers, and they've seen me go through this where I would do certain things and experiment and notice if there's any results. And I remember about 3 years ago, it was just too caught up with everything else. I just stopped doing it. I said, I'm going to just keep it simple. And then 3 months later, I look at the tank and I'm just kind of blown away because I'm getting the colors that I only wanted to get.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, I do use Kalkwasser. Primarily, I think mostly for, I guess, economical reasons because it just does a lot of things and also increases the pH.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have 800 gallons of salt water, just doing and it's heavily Acropora dominated. I don't think I can just afford
Do you use a
two
reactor?
parts. I have never, sorry, calc-water reactor, yes. I've never used a calcium reactor in my entire life.
You never use the stir? What do you use for a reactor?
Huh?
What do you use for a reactor?
A calc-water reactor.
Okay, but is it like a calc
Yes.
stir, or is it just like
Yeah, it's a calc
okay?
story, sorry, yes.
How
But
often?
I've never used a calcium reactor.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I meant calc reactor.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
often do you add fresh calc to it?
I have I do the following. I add every week. So I have in my app, I have a reminder,
Mm-hmm.
and I put like 2 scoops of the calcwater, and now I just eyeball it. Like I don't. I used to be meticulous. It had to be 4.5 of the spoon and everything else. Now I just don't because calcwater. It doesn't really matter how much I add because on the other side of it, I have my aquawiz on both of the tanks,
Mm-hmm.
and it just because it tests every hour, it will dose just that amount of fauna into the water column just to make up for that. And
Okay.
that allows me to get away with basically having the stability without really thinking about it.
So your AquaWiz doses the fauna marine supplements for you on top of your
Correct.
base of calcwater.
That is correct.
Okay. Does the fauna have any traces in them at all, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
What they when you premix, technically it's a 3-part,
Mm-hmm.
but my aqua is only dose alkalinity. The calcium and magnesium I dose manually. Sorry, not manually. I have a pump, but it doesn't sway that much, and every month I will just maybe recalibrate it. But most of the time I don't. It's actually pretty close to
Okay.
whatever it's consuming.
Okay. So you are dosing trace elements. Okay.
I,
They
yes, I
they're
am.
part of your dosing. Okay. So you are dosing trace
Yes.
elements and doing large water changes. Okay. This
Yes,
makes more sense
and
to
there
me.
is also trace elements in fish food, and we
Yeah.
actually have no. Well, I don't know. I don't have any idea how much trace elements are in like a mixture of pellets and seafood.
Yeah.
Is
No,
it
that's fair.
complete or not?
It's a mystery. Now,
We don't know, right?
secondary question: do you do ICP tests, and if so, how often?
I used to, and I've not done an ICP in probably close to a year. I would. The only reason I don't do it more often is just convenience. It used to be that I could, I had a store literally walking distance from where I live, and then it was very easy. Sunday, just do this once a month or whatever it is, hand it
Mm-hmm.
over, you take care of it and whatnot. And now you have to like put it in a mail, you send it to store here, and then that store like will wait till Friday and send it over to Germany or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of and that would be another, let's say, $15 to send it by mail. And I'm too lazy to do
That's fair.
that. But the benefit I think there is to catch things that are off the chart.
Yep. Okay. I have another question for you.
Please.
So someone in the chat was asking about dosing with the AquaWiz, was scared to trust it. Do you? So I'm guessing it's dosing your alkalinity, and if
Yes.
it's doing random amounts of your alkalinity to keep it stable, do you worry
Yep.
about calcium or elk to test it and make it somewhat equal to balance it out, or do you just manually tweak it once in a while? How do you work that?
You know what I do is I don't worry about this at all. Once a week, I do the measurements
Mm-hmm.
manually just to double check like what my calcium and magnesium is. And if I'm over, usually it will come down for some reason because it will never keep climbing up. And if I'm lower, then I will just, put in 1 liter of of magnesium or of calcium, and everything just works.
Okay. You just manually tweak it when needed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I last time I looked at the pumps and calibrated them or did something, I don't even wonder about that.
Yeah, that's
Just
fair. I don't.
because calcwater also adds at least calcium in there,
Mm.
and it's quite significant. So it just works out quite nicely.
All right, you inspired me. I'll bust my calc reactor back out again when I start adding coral again.
Which one? This is now you're getting it.
Calcster, or let me.
Okay, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
but which one?
I have an Avast one.
Okay, yeah, that's the one. I do have one pet peeve with Avast.
Yes. What's your pet peeve?
Uh,
You got a pet peeve
it,
with every project we've mentioned. Okay, what's your pet peeve?
are you different?
No, I'm just curious what yours is.
No, you probably have a pet peeve
Probably.
amongst
I just
yeah.
laugh because it's your prefix to every product we mentioned. Okay, so what's your pet peeve?
I do because I use them so much, and I have I'll answer in a second because I want to bring up another pet peeve that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves of all pet peeves. But okay,
Okay,
first I'll answer your question. The
we're gonna have a stream
I'll
called Pet Peeves with Dmitry. Okay.
yeah, I can talk. That's a good topic, but we'll need 2 hours. Um, I have two Avast Marines, which I think are awesome. I
Mhm.
love them. However, after I bought them at the same time, spent a lot of money on them, and they both leaked at exactly the same time, like a year and a half later. It wasn't like a leak,
Yep.
but it was tiny droplets of, and then slowly bigger, and then they were both leaking.
Was it?
Now,
Okay. Where
yeah,
was it leaking? Like just at a seam or?
at the seam at the bottom
So I pulled
because
mine
it's
off because it had a tiny leak.
there you go. So
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 I put a bead of Weld-On 40 around it
yeah,
to feel it, but I
that
haven't put
will
it back on the tank yet. But now I'm thinking, since my fancy custom sump won't fit in my new stand, I'm just like, I guess I'll use a stock sump for now. And then I was like,
yeah.
oh, if I just throw it in the sump, then it doesn't matter if it leaks.
Yeah, but it's gonna get worse and worse and worse, and at some point it'll just won't
Yeah,
hold
no, I
water.
already put a bead of Weld-On around it to glue it, but I just haven't put it back in
That
yet.
didn't work for me.
Really?
Yeah, because what it does, it fuses things. For
Yes.
whatever reason, I tried that thing first, and that didn't work. The only thing that worked eventually, or maybe it worked for like a tiny bit, and then it ate through it, was a buddy of mine came by with some sort of a resin that, or sorry, resin epoxy, or like some sort of epoxy
Hmm.
that hardens when you put UV on top of it.
Okay.
It's
And that worked?
that worked, but this guy is a pro. Like he actually has acrylic in the name of his company,
Oh,
so like
ask him what it
he
was
knows his
because I
stuff.
obviously need some of that just for good measure. Ryan, thank you
Uh,
very much for the
sorry, what's
super
the
chat.
question?
Oh, I said, let me know whatever that was because obviously I have to do that
I don't
over
know.
here.
He said it was maybe your viewers will say it was some sort of epoxy that hardens by UV.
Okay.
That was the thing. So you do need like a special light as well to go around the tank and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or he said on a sunny day, you can take your tank or whatever canister outside, leave it for the full day, and that UV will cure it as
For
well.
girls' nails, there is some kind of like a resiny thing they do, like a gel coat that
Probably,
they put UV under to seal it. And I feel like my
probably.
wife might have some, and I might almost, I don't know if I should
All
trust
right.
that,
Well, there
but
you go.
it's probably the same
But
thing.
pet peeve of all pet
Yep.
peeves is the button on all set of like Nero, like aqua illumination products,
Mm-hmm.
because they have this little tiny controller
Mm-hmm.
and it has like one button. And if I wake you up in the middle of the night, first of all, don't be surprised because it will be awkward if I'm waking you up in the middle of the night. But irregardless, what do you think it does
Adjust the modes.
if you press that button?
It goes from 20, adjust the percentage of the.
Okay, well, so why would anybody need that?
If you don't use the app and you just want to make it go more or less flow.
Okay, my argument or my thought is
Yes.
that's a secondary function. That's basically for exactly what you said, but it's not very applicable. It's not like I'm setting up a tank and I've done, let's say, 40, but then later on I think I want to go higher, because I will get the app and I'll play with it and I'll do more modes and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of less. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
my argument is it has to, pressing it should turn off the flow, because this is the most common operation. If my hands are wet, if something is leaking, if I've dropped something, if I'm moving the power head out from one tank into a bucket or something like that, I want to be able to press one button and do that. This is the most important function for every reefer.
Plug 1 inch lower on the controller, but yeah.
And that's exactly what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I use the I use the Nero for my saltwater mixing, Yeah.
I'm gonna. I don't know how many people will be interested in this, but I might do a thing one day on showing how to integrate your Apex with Home Assistant, and then you could get
Sure.
buttons to make it do whatever you want, and you get super crazy.
Yes. But still, the whole point is, I was at the Coral Show 2 weeks ago
Mm-hmm.
as a vendor. So I pack up in the morning, 8 buckets of salt water, drive. Actually, I brought my AquaWiz with me, which basically was measuring alkalinity in real time so people could see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have two aqua elimination products. I have the Axis, which is their standing power pump, which is awesome, which was doing the circulation of water in the tank. And then I had the Nero, which was doing further, it's a power head that doing further one.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening is when people come up to the booth asking questions or just looking at the tank, you want to be able to quickly turn off the flow.
Yeah.
It's very common. But also if people are walking away or if there's something, you want to kick it back in because you want that movement because it's good for the coral.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? I had to basically with wet hands do exactly what you just said.
Yep.
Which is the silliest thing ever.
You should
that
submit that as
whole
a
thing,
feature
pressing
request
it.
and be like an option in the app to control the button does, because I'm sure it's only software, right?
I've made that request. I've been making that request with lovely folks at Aqua Illumination for 9 years, I want to say.
I will make the request too. Maybe if more than one person requests it, it will happen.
But
I will support the cause.
we'll do better. There's 59 people watching right now. I think they all should reach out to Aqua Elimination and hashtag pet peeve or Dmitry's pet peeve or whatever it is. Let's do that. After all, I'm on the signature series of Aqua Elimination. Maybe that should carry some weight, but
a feature
they have to do this
what
button.
the button does. I like it.
Yeah, and if we already have their ear, I think the holding that button should enable the feed mode or something like that.
Yeah, they could totally do a thing if you hold it down.
This is the way. This is the way. Nobody wants that 20, 30. Like this is the demo mode for the store or something like that, or when you explain it to somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, pet peeve
Bill,
over.
I have my Nero plugged into my EcoFlow battery backup. I push one button and EcoFlow will start the pump. I love it.
Sure.
Thank you, Polar Reef. Much appreciated.
Very nice. Oh, Polar Reef.
I've
reached out to Polar Reef, never heard back. So I would love to see it one day and come over and do a video. So if I'll use this shameless opportunity to kindly ask Polar Reef to get back to me at Treasure Corals, so I can drive over and see the tank and do a video.
I say you're so close you could drive over. Man, I got to do so.
Of course I will.
Flights and hours. And
that's
so nice,
for sure.
Convenient for you.
Come on.
Lucky.
There you go. But last thing, the reason why I also don't do any traces is because
I want to. It's part of your dosing.
Well, okay, you're right.
So you are doing traces. So you're like, I don't do traces. My colors are phenomenal. You are doing it. You're doing a low dosage of trace elements via your dosing, which gives you the benefit of not being deficient in something. So I do. Plus, I do water changes. Yeah, I know, but that does a good chunk, but it doesn't do everything. And I think it's better to not overdose trace elements, but you also don't want to bottom out of trace elements. So you're doing enough that you're not bottoming them out and keeping your corals in a happy state.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, go ahead.
I was shameless on my 110 calcium reactor, and I was dosing like 100 mils of all-for-reef a day just because I know I had trace elements. I'm like, okay, at least I won't be bottom out on anything. That was like my slacker way of dosing them for a while there.
Yeah, calcium reactor is awesome from that perspective, right? Because you're introducing a whole bunch of goodies into the water column there.
You are, but you're also not getting all of the trace elements. There's still lots you're not getting. So that's why I was dosing all free on top of it, just as like my cheater way of getting trace in without worrying about it too much.
Can I do another like a little offshoot? I want to
bring it on.
I want to ask you. I'm now on a quest for perfect fish food.
Yep.
And I mean, you're also fancy with your frozen thing and this and that. But what do you think is kind of the most optimal, most complete fish food for your fish, like pellets, seafood, custom? Go to the market and cut it up.
I
Um,
think that if you were to do that, ironically, I have someone that is like a fish food company coming out in a couple weeks, that's mixing all kinds of funky new blends up. But I think that ideally, like getting a big blend, like I primarily feed mysis and stuff, but I think going and get a bunch of seafood and like chopping it up and making your own is probably the best, right?
mhm.
Because you're going to get different nutrients out of different chunks of stuff, different particle size, feed different things. So I think that's probably the best way to go overall. Like if you can, add a bit of phyto to it, add a little bit of nori in there, you get different types of seafood.
Mhm.
I think that would be optimal. I don't go through that. I probably should be more variety in my food. I feed mysis and I'll randomly add in the Reef Nutrition line because I think they're awesome and it's a really easy way to do it. But
Yep.
what do
But
you
when
think?
you say let's say I'm on a quest to do the best possible fish food at home,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mind driving to a supermarket, and let's say I have even, I don't mind driving further and get like to a seafood place as well.
Yep.
What would you do once you go in there? Let's
Buy a
break it down
bunch
a
of
little bit.
fresh seafood that's on sale, throw it in a blender, chop it up, and then freeze it into little chunks.
Like scallops would
Yep.
be on that list.
Scallops, shrimp, you know, mussels, whatever is fresh and plentiful and not overly priced. I would just variety spice of life. Like in the ocean, they're all eating each other. I mean, that's basically seafood.
How big would you, how would you make those, like how big would you get those items? Like use the knife and chop chop chop, or
Either
you
knife
would
or
use like a
blender.
blender or something?
Yeah,
Huh?
either knife or blender. Like I kind of look at mysis as kind of the standard for big stuff. And then
Yeah.
obviously, there's stuff like canalus and other stuff that's tiny particles. Like it partially depends on the fish you keep, what's in there. If you're trying to feed corals and LPS and stuff, then they're going to have
Yeah.
little tiny particles, right? Where, a
Hmm.
big tang is going to want a bigger chunk. So I think it's good to have a mix. Like Phil in the chat, I use using Dong's recipe, salmon and shrimp, shredded nori for his gem tang, Claude at Fauna's recipe. Yeah, so I have not
Dong's recipe.
personally done it. I've snagged chunks of other people's that they've made. One of these days, I probably should try it. But honestly, I think like any fresh seafood that you can mix in there is not going to hurt and be good for things.
Okay, I will. I'll check it out. The first Google for Dong's recipe salmon shrimp reef is this salmon and shrimp recipe will blow your mind. I think they're actually cooking it for people, not for this. So if they can specify, if the reef keeper one can share a link to like a reef to reef
Mm-hmm.
thread, that would be probably helpful.
Reef fish, wild food.
And the other reason I'm also not doing anything crazy when it comes to supplementation is because I want my corals, like if people go to my site and order frags, which I do ship all across Canada, they can expect that they are not in some steroid lab that the moment they're off of the intravenous of all the goodies,
Mm-hmm.
they won't suffocate and they'll be fine in like an average person's aquarium.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
The other one that comes up a lot that I get asked or have seen is people asking about amino acids.
Yes.
And I feel that if you feed a lot of frozen food, you don't really need to worry about it because you'll get it from the mysis or the salmons or the shrimp or whatever's in there. But if you feed a lot of pellets, then I feel like there's a lot more benefit to dosing aminos.
I would agree, but also probably a lot of fish food will break things down and produce those other aminos as well.
But do you think you get
I'm
it
a
from pelletized or freeze dried food, or do you think primarily from frozen?
We don't know. I know. So I personally have interacted with folks with amazing tanks that were full. Oh, I only do pellets, and like their tank looks phenomenal, and the fish look phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know people that do the same, but oh, it's all frozen. It stands to reason that really the aminos would show up after the breakdown or like through their gut and digestive tract, just because um, you know you will get some into water column by what they haven't eaten, and those are aminos. But then the rest is really just gonna probably do stuff, and they break down. But everybody agrees, I think now, that the more fish, it's a balancing act. You don't want to have too much fish and very little coral. But if you do have a lot of coral, like I do, you do want to have an appropriate, a large amount of fish. And I've been adding fish, and I love adding fish from that perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Like fish poop is probably one of the best ways to feed your coral.
It certainly is. It's and you know what? I've also noticed that before I was thinking like it's just going to be in the water column, but because I have multiple aquariums, and some aquariums did not have fish for a while, I was first thinking that, well, somehow all the goodies are gonna get through, and I don't use any filter socks, so eventually it will get there. But I think there's just something magical happening when a fish actually poops and it disperses in that tank, or there's like a chunk that
Cloud.
falls.
Yeah.
That's where, like, sign me up. There's some funky stuff going on there.
Yeah, no, agree. Okay, random thing. This has popped in my head. I've been debating this. So
let's do.
I've been debating trying. I probably will fail and get some tangs and bigger stuff, but I've been debating toying with the idea of doing lots of smaller fish to give the tank a bit of a bigger scale.
100%.
Part of me wants to get a powder blue and a copper band again, which completely killed that. But I like the idea of trying to have tons of little fish to give it just give it such a different scale versus having a bunch of bigger fish.
Do it. 100%. And you know what? I would be the first person to like absolutely love you named the two fishes that are probably one of my favorites, if not the favorite. But at the same time, maybe hold off the urge for maybe the first 6 months and just do that, because that is the more I look at the tank, the more, I don't want to say it's an eyesore, but like the big fishes, they kind of look cool, but at the same time, we've all seen them. The look of the tank is going to be completely different if there you have like 80 fish or 60 fish, but they're going to be tiny. And then, oh no, come over there, like look at this corner here. There'll be like 6 fishes that will come out, and like really exquisite, really cool little ones.
Yeah, I've been giving a lot of thought lately, and I kind of want to try that scale, but I'm like,
do it.
I love copper bands, and I miss my powder blue. I'm really tempted to get those two again, but I'll hold off for a while and see, and maybe just start with only little ones for a while. But I think
Very
just like
good
a big
idea.
tank with a really small fish to give it this crazy scale perspective.
And you can have like cool, even like if you want to have a couple of tanks, like you can add a couple of small bristle tooths.
Yeah, like a bristle tooth or a tumini or something. I'll probably add one small one just because they're great workers. But
get the whitetail bristle tooth, probably one of the most beautiful fish out there.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. That's one of my favorite for the smaller tanks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do it. This would be awesome. And then also, because you're starting out and you try not to get your coral grow too large. Instead, just keep pruning them and like maybe add more of a variety, but also it'll change that scale. Like that would be really, really cool.
I know. I'm currently debating which rock to go for, and I just ordered a bunch of like glue and cement and super glue.
Oh God, that's a big one as well, eh?
I know. So we'll
especially
see.
with the fish
I basically decided I'm just gonna start it from scratch and do a brand new rock, everything, and just like I don't know, I gotta come up with a crazy cool scape.
Done. That's phenomenal.
Lots of fun. Yeah, I don't know. Does any last minute acro related questions? Ask away. Do it, man. Half dozen sailfin mollies. My 60. They look great in Piccadilly. I've never tried mollies in saltwater.
I have.
I hear
they are awesome. It takes a little bit. I think you have to transition it a little bit slower. You don't want to just kind of throw him there. But one thing, and I only speak of like what I tried probably 15 years ago, is the flow. They cannot for me, they couldn't handle that strong reef flow that almost any other marine fish can. They were just like thrown around, and that was my issue. Maybe it's different now, but that was an issue for me at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, lots of future fun. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed our stream on SPS secrets, you know, kind of more tips of success, really. It works. And yeah, if you're after an aqua whiz, I hear they're on sale at Treasure Corals.
As well as I culture now 126 distinct species of corals.
Solid.
More than half of it, or like 80% of it, is Acropora, and I ship all across Canada.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Love it. One day I'm gonna. Hey, I'll have to actually order some coral off you now because I need some.
I'll look after you.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out tonight. As always, be sure to check out Treasure Curls with Black Friday sales. And thanks for hanging out tonight. Ryan and Polo Reef, thank you guys so much for super chats. Much appreciated. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, the like button, and we'll catch you guys on next week's stream. Thanks, guys.